Hi, hello, and good morning. It is so good to see you as always. It is Tuesday morning. It's 7:30 over here in New York and 12:30 p.m. in Ghana, and just different time zones in the world. And I'm just very, 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 very excited to see you. How is everybody doing? The show is To My Younger Self. My name is Zoe Baraka, and I will be your host for the next couple of minutes. As always, listen, I don't get to really see you when you come on. Do me a favor, go into the comment section and, just say good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I do want to hear from you, especially if you're greeting me in your local dialect. Okay? All right, this should be fun. I'm very excited today because I get to spend a few minutes with a young man I've admired for a while now. And so, I'm a little giddy, I'm excited, and, all that stuff. Like I'm always telling y'all, bear with me, bear with me. And I already see a few people here. Let me say a few good mornings to you. Of course, Beverly Ross, good morning to you, sis. I see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Big sis Elsie, good morning, good morning. It is so good to see you all the way in Toronto, our able producer. Thank you so, so, so much for joining us. And everyone else that is on there that I don't see, please say hello to me so I can greet you properly. Okay, like we always do, we greet each other in different dialects from the continent of Africa mostly, and just other places in the world. Listen, Bella to you and Ibio Kibari to you if you speak Moshi. Welcome, good morning, thank you so much. Do you speak Hausa? Barka da zuwa, Sanunku da zuwa, Yayade Yakakwana Ikwana Lafia. I just greeted you in different variations of Hausa. I am so thankful that you're here with us. For Ken, ya Ken, ya Tuma Awela Fuduwela, Tuma, to Pose Winam Baraka. I just greeted you in different variations of the Kosal language and the Mamprili language. La Awane, the Frafras will say, Ansoma to you. The Walis will say, Ansoma Hogange Songo. The Garis will say, of course, Dasoba to you if you speak the Gomba. Indina to you. Wezo, if you are in the Volta region of Ghana. God bless you so much for joining us. OJ Cole, if you speak Gam. Thank you so much for joining us. Ekaro, and a cabo to you if you speak Yoruba. Otutu Omao, Otutu Omanabata to you. If you speak Igbo. Emesiere to you, and of course Emedio to you if you speak Ebibio. Thank you for joining us. Eteseng Akwaba, Ohute Den Mimawachi. I just greeted you in the Akan dialect in different variations, the Fanti, the Chi, the Achim, all of those. I just greeted you in that. And of course, Nyamishra, which means God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, are you in the eastern part of Africa and some parts of the of South Africa? Karibu to you. Habari Gani, Habari Yasubwe to you. Oyaure to you. If you speak Leo, Luo, and you are from Kenya, Murembe to you. Thank you for joining us. Awana from the Mendes of Sierra Leone. Thank you so much for joining us. Mangwanani to you. Makadii to you from the Shona people of Zimbabwe. Linjani to you from the Ndebeles of Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us. Nagadev to you if you speak Wolof. I am so glad you're joining us today. Inyasi, Aloy, Domila, this is from my own people, the Bissas of Ghana and of course Burkina Faso. Thank you for joining us. Kotongo and Amohelang to you if you speak Sesotho from Botswana. Akeyi to you. Naumai to you. Welena to you from the people of Hawaii. Thank you so much. Dumela to you from the Sotos of South Africa. Sawabona from the Zulus of South Africa. Of course, Kotoli to you if you speak Fulani. I am so thankful you're here. Thank you for joining us. Bonjour, guten Morgen, as the Germans will say. Buongiorno, dobroje otro from the Russians. Of course, bom dia, the Portuguese will say. Buenos dias, and of course, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Listen, today is an exciting day. I'm going to introduce this young man to you, but I kind of set him up a bit. So I'm going to play a little video first so you kind of get acquainted with who this young man is and some of the things that he's done. One of the things that I don't want to say his name first. I want him to say his name. But one of the videos that caught my attention is a report he did a while ago that kind of, I just went, whoa, who is this? And I want to play a little bit of that video for you first. Before I play that video, Chidi from Nigeria, good morning to you. Abina, oh my God, this mompreneur, I see you. Hannah too, thank you for joining us. God bless you guys so very much. This is a surprise. He doesn't know I'm doing this. I'm going to just spring it up on him. Bear with me as I share this little video with you guys. It's about a minute or so. This is part of my introduction of my adopted brother. I just adopted him yesterday, okay? All right, here you go. Here you go. Let's see. Okay, it wants me to convert it to something and something and something and something. All right, well, we're not going to be able to do that at the moment. Oh, I am very sad. He must be very happy right now. It's all good though. It's all good. But fine, let me introduce him to you. Ridwan Karim Dini-Osman is a multi award-winning development journalist and news anchor based in Ghana. Dini-Osman is a Pulitzer Center grantee and recipient of the 2018 Lorenzo Natali Media Prize in 2020. He was awarded Best African TV Journalist in Environmental and Change Reporting by the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. See how I am out of breath? These are big words, okay? You have to be a big master in order to get all these awards. Dini-Osman is also a 2021 fellow of the University of Rhode Island Metcalf Institute Annual Science Immersion Program for Journalists. Hey, shit. And he's so humble. He actually just gave me that little thing. But there I say that I've actually gone to journalism school and at the end of my years, my communications lecturer, he said to me, yeah, you suck as a journalist. You should go to film school, which is what I proceeded to do. So it takes some guts and tenacity to be a journalist. And I have so much respect for this young man who I am so honored now to be able to call my younger brother. As we always do on our show, on To My Younger Self, we always give a hearty, warm welcome to our guest. Please unhook over here and just say welcome to him in whatever dialect you speak. Hello, 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 Karim. It's so good to see you. You are muted, my brother. Go on, please put on your mic. I cannot hear you. There you go.
Oh, so all that for me, all that introduction was for me. I was actually looking forward to that video because I have no idea what the content is.
I am so sad, but as you're talking, we're gonna work on it and see if we can share it during the show. But yes, welcome to the show. It's been a while.
The pleasure is mine, and thanks so much for having me. I'm grateful.
My God. Yes.
I'm super excited.
Yes, me too. And thank you, because you know what? All I did was like reach out to you real quick and say, hey, can you? And you just said yes. I mean, I was like, wow, just yes? No, talk to my manager, nothing?
No. I mean, you are my sister. I cannot do that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Listen, the floor is yours, like we always say. So go ahead.
Oh, wow. All right. So my name is Ridwan Karim Dini-Osman. Like you heard Zoe say, I hail from the north of Ghana. My mother hailed from Wa in the Upper West region, and my dad hails from Boko in the Upper East region. The unfortunate thing is that I haven't had any experience, staying in the north, because I spent most of my life here in the south.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, and then we moved to Sunyai. Then in we moved to the central region. That's where I grew up. Because when we went to the central region, I was very young. So I started schooling in Cape Coast. There is, I don't want to say a village, but there is this small community called Ankafo
Mm-hmm.
in in the central region. That's where one of the biggest prisons. When you look at the prison service in Ghana, one of their biggest, branches
Mm-hmm.
is actually located. So that's where I grew up. That's where I had my basic education. That's where I started.
Mm.
I say that I don't come from a very privileged background. I had a very tough upbringing. I I am the seventh of 10 children,
Oh my God.
and my mother went through a lot with
Mm.
us, And if there is anything, let me just say it right from the beginning. If there is anything that I would want to say to my younger self, is that I think right from the onset, I should have been praying to God that if for nothing at all, you know, He should keep my mother alive. And I feel that's one thing that I didn't do constantly, because I feel if I had done it, my mother would have stayed, longer than she did.
Mm.
Because I
Wow.
remember I started school very late. And
Mm.
so when I entered basic school, I think I entered the third term straight to P1. I didn't go through kindergarten. And so immediately I entered the basic school, I was repeated. I remember
Oh
I
my
cried
God.
so much. Then when I was repeated, then subsequently, like I found my feet.
Mm.
I learned really, really fast. And I think that experience made me very angry, even though I was very young. I think I was 6 or 7 by then. And
Wow.
so I became the best in class.
Mm.
And I maintained, that for a very long time. So what to cut a very long story short, I went to P2, P3. Then I think when I got to about 8 or 9, that is when I realized the the reality, the harsh reality of life. Because I was a child. If I was hungry and I couldn't find food, I couldn't explain what was happening. But
Mm.
I think when I was about 8 or 9, then I realized what the situation was.
Wow.
When, I mean, you would wake up in the morning, take your bath, get ready for school, and you ask for money and there is
Yes.
no money, and you ask for food, there is no food. And one excuse is giving, one or two excuses are giving,
Mm.
and you cannot do anything. You either decide to stay at home or you go to school. But
Wow.
I mean, stay at home and do what? So you
And
have to go to school you know
wow.
so I went through all of that for the longest time. It got to a point where we had to take up so many menial things that we were doing just to put food on the table. I
Mm.
remember when I was 9, my mother started doing this sobolo Hausa beer business.
Mm.
And so she would prepare it, put it in the fridge, and she'll put it in an ice chest, the
Mm.
cooler, and we take it to, there's a community in the central region called Elmina. So I'll take it there, like spend the whole day hawking. And so there is no part of Elmina that I don't know. I spent, at that age, I was hawking, like I spent most of the time hawking, so
Was this
you
after
sell that.
school or
Come
before
again?
school? Was this after school or before?
I was skipping school most of the time to do that because we needed to put food on the table. And fortunately what worked for me was the fact that I was able to catch up. And so it was surprising for a lot of the teachers that this guy would stay out of school, come back, receive some lashes, and when he sits for the exams, he beats everybody. So
Wow.
that was like the talk of even the barracks at the time. So
Mm.
my mother will put all of that together. I'll go to Elmina, the beach, So go to the where the fishmongers are, then we'll be selling, and when you finish, at the end of the day, the proceeds, you use some to buy the ingredient for the sobolo and also for the house beer. Then the rest, you use it to buy ingredients for cooking for that day. And that went on for the longest time. It got to a point where my mother spent all the money on us. So I had to go and assist somebody. And there's this woman back in Ankafo called Awonye. So she was also selling a different type of ice cream. So I'll follow her to a place called Mankesim, also in the central region. So she would look for a spot. I remember she'll give me a tray and put the ice cream on it. And I'll be roaming on the streets of Mankesim looking for buyers. There are times too that you go to when you are going to Takrady, there is a place called I've forgotten. When I remember, I'll tell you. I've forgotten the name. Something Chrome. It's not Kojo Chrome, but there's before you get to Kojo Chrome, like Shama Takrady proper, there is a place where you have a lot of hawkers at the toll, booth selling and all of that. So we'll go there and sell as well. So that went on for the longest time. Then we were transferred to Winneba, also in the central region. And before we left Anchor 4, I was moving to class 4. So we moved to Winneba, and I think for the first 2 years, I didn't go to school. I was just at home because there was no money and my mother was struggling. My mother, there is nothing my mother hasn't sold, or didn't sell. She was selling cocoa, the Hausa cocoa, with Koose, with masa, both fruits, and all the things that I'm talking about are things that I can equally prepare because I learned it from my mother. And among the siblings, I was the closest to my mother. So I remember the Koose, it was the red one. So you pound it, you have to remove all the eyes of the beans, that black spots, then we add pepper, we add onions, then you walk a lot of kilometers to the place where the milling machine is. Then you bring it, I'll sit down, and I remember those times I'll fetch it and put it in a pot, aluminium pot, and use my legs to lock it and look for the stirring, the bankuta, they call it.
Yes,
The
it's like a stirring
bankuta,
stick.
the wooden paddle.
Yes.
I'll put it in the pot and whisk it, because you need to whisk the bean cake or whatever to make it very light so that it becomes friable, if there is any word like that. So you go through all of that. After that, then I would take my bath. Then my mother will put this thing on the tray. I'll carry it on my head. Zoe, there is no streets of Winneba that I don't know. Anybody who is watching me and knows the Winneba Township, from the Winneba Township to the Winneba Junction, is quite a distance. But those days, I would hawk as far as to that place.
Wow.
And the sad thing about that type of Koose is that if you sell it, like if you roam and you are not able to finish everything, the next day it gets slimy. So you have to find a way to sell it. And I remember I will roam, and when it's about 8 p.m. when I'm returning home, I'm like, what am I going to do? How is my mother going to prepare the next morning's Koose? So I need to find a way. And I remember at some point my mother wasn't adding the cocoa, so I have to look for people by the roadside who are selling cocoa. I have to go and beg. If the person doesn't have any type of Koose they are selling, then I will sit by them and have to find a way of cajoling and convincing customers to buy Koose while they bought, cocoa.
The cocoa.
And if I manage to sell some of the rest, I have to look for customers, enter their houses. And I wish some of them were here to tell you how, as young as I was, I could actually convince them to buy, even take on credit so that the following day I could come for my money. And that went on for the longest time. And eventually when I managed to get to, because of time, I'm trying to not go through everything so that, we just get the cracks of the story. So I managed to get to school from P4 after staying home for that long. I got admission to P6. Then I went to basic school,
Before
and
you go on, I want to ask you
mm,
how old you are now, if you don't mind, just so
I'm
we get a
I'm
perspective.
27. I'm 27.
And you went through all of that,
Yes.
and
So with the
you're
year we moved to Winneba was in 2004. That was the year we moved to
wow.
Winneba. And so I started school, and I started school with my older brother's uniform. I remember those times it was so pale, it was so worn out, and I'll wear it. And yeah, so I got them, and still, the thing about my mother's business is that my mother will start something, and because the entire family is relying on all of that, then the sustainability becomes a problem, because you use the money to buy this, to cook for the house. If somebody is sick, you use the money for medication. And to
Mhm.
be very honest, I know this will get me into trouble. My dad was not helpful. Most of the challenges that we encountered was because
Your
of
dad
my
was.
dad's attitude.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't want to go into,
That's okay.
that in detail.
Mm.
So we went through that. Then I remember at some point I'll come to school, and there is like I'll come on empty stomach, and the teachers for some reasons will realize it. Some
Wow.
will sometimes give me money. Sometimes and I'm always cheerful looking, so
Yes, I was just thinking, how
yeah,
is
they won't always notice it. So at some point, I think that one of the teachers thought, you know, she should talk to me. Then
mm,
she spoke to me and realized that there were real challenges at home. So at some point, even my headmistress, who has played a very crucial role in my life in basic school and even after, had to change my uniform because she realized that the uniform was completely worn out, and she changed the uniform. At some point, the teachers had to contribute to get my mother something small to start,
really?
business. Yes.
Wow.
And because I'm young, all the things that I'm saying are very much alive. And if anybody who knows me very well is watching, the person can, readily
Verify.
remember what I'm saying.
Wow.
And we went through all of that, and it became so difficult. So when I was in, I think, and the thing is also that my teachers found me so confident. And so whenever there was a presentation, there was like a role to play, like public
Mhm,
speaking, they
mhm.
would call me out and give me
Wow.
the role. And so my initial introduction to public speaking is through Bible reading. Even though I'm a Muslim, but I happen
Mhm,
to attend so many Christian schools, Anglican, Methodist, and all of that. So anytime, there was the need to read the Bible, they would call me, give me the verse, and come.
mhm.
And for me, it was just like reading, doing
Everything.
presentation.
Yes.
And I remember when I started school in Winnie, but the school is an Anglican school, so we had what we call the mass service, which was
Mm.
compulsory. If you missed it, great
Great
punishment. So
trouble.
you would
Yes.
attend. So I was reading in the church and all doing that all the time. Then I realized anytime I read, the teachers will come out and say, "Hey, this guy is so good, like he speaks well and all
Right.
of that." Then all this while I was also, catching glimpses of news on TV,
Mhm.
and I figured out that, this is what I would want to do because I had this knack for public speaking. Like, speaking and I was very precocious as a
Mhm.
child. What we call kate kate, I would just say
Uh-huh.
something, and I was always saying things that were above me, and people were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what do you want to know?" Like in
Uh-huh.
the local dialect, like I was, saying things that were way bigger than me. So at that point, I realized that I wanted to do journalism,
Mm,
and so what I remember doing was that at some point, my mother had a Nokia phone,
mm.
and I would take the Nokia phone and, you know, just record myself reading. So I remember those time I used to watch TV3, Nana Bar, Roland, and the rest on TV, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be in that position one day. So I'll pick the phone and start, rehearsing. And I remember I'll record myself and, play it to my mate to listen. How does that sound? He said, oh, those are those people on TV who read. I said, that is me. They're like, no, 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 that cannot be you. So I got the sense that, you know what? I'm getting there. So I remember those times I will be walking in town and I will look for, and I'll chance on a billboard. Then I'll stand in front of it and pose and be reading and like I'm doing a presentation. And
Wow.
I'll look for the bread seller or the Koose seller or anybody who is making use of used newspapers, and I'll pick those and I will be reading. I will just be in character and I will be reading. And I got teachers who told me that the best way I could improve my vocabulary was through reading. And so I was reading like
Consistently
constantly,
all the time.
you
Wow.
know, and I realized that like this is what I really wanted to do. And I could write and I could write very well. So to cut long story, I went through all the challenges because if I want to, give a blow by blow account of what I went through, it would take the whole day and even more. So I finished basic school, entered secondary school. I went to Ooooo Senior High School. And
Wow.
I must say that entering that school was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Mm.
All this while I wanted to go to Adisado College. So when the schools came and I didn't get, I was like, oh God.
God.
I remember crying, and my mother kept consoling me that God had a reason for me. And indeed, God had a reason for me, because I reckon that if I had gone to Adisado College, I would have dropped out,
Wow.
because at Ooooo Senior High School, um, there were teachers who were God sent,
Mm.
who paid my fees, took care of
Teachers paid
me.
your fees?
Yes, they paid my fees for the longest time. They
Oh,
paid
if
my
you don't mind,
fees.
can you say their names just so we say thank you to them?
Yes. Madame
Wow.
Patience Abongo, she took me like a
My
mother. So
God.
it took me like a son. I stayed with her most of the time, even though I was in the hostel. But I mean, once in a while, I would dash in, and she paid my fees for the longest time.
Wow.
I remember at some point I fell sick. I was admitted. She would take care of my medical bills. She took me as a son.
Thank
And
you.
another teacher,
Wow.
Mr. Samuel Abusi, who taught me literature in school, also took me like a son. And in fact, he took it upon himself to go on a search for scholarship. We'll be writing. I remember there is no organization in this country we didn't write letters to, because it was a real struggle. And
God
how much was I paying at the time? It was not even up to 100 cities. This was around 2009, 2010. My fees was not even up to, that amount, and we were struggling. And so we kept writing letters. And I remember we wrote to the MTN Foundation. I mean, I don't want to even go through the list. And there was no response. So eventually, we saw this advertisement from the multimedia group.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that, we're going to apply. So we
Mm-hmm.
applied, and I went through interviews upon interviews, and I got selected. So I went to Accra and went through interviews, wrote exams, and eventually I was shortlisted and I was given the scholarship. This was like my third year. I went through school for 4 years, so this was
Mm-hmm.
like my third year. So it was good, but it came a bit late because I enjoyed the scholarship for about 2 terms.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the interviews, I think I found favor in the eyes of the panel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think around the same time, Emma Morrison had moved from TV3 to the multimedia group. I think she
Mm-hmm.
moved to TV3 to IDEC, then she moved to the multimedia group. Then she what do you call it? They were coming up with a news program for kids called News Generation. So they were looking for like a young host. So when she came there and they said, this guy is the guy to get for that program. So she spoke to me and she realized that I had what she wanted. And she
Wow.
was like, you know what? I know you are preparing for your final exams, but we're going to transport you to come to Accra to be recording once in a while. And so when you get back to school, let's talk. So when I got back to school and we spoke, and she was like, you know what? I don't want you to have challenges with your studies. So you know what? Just write the exams. When you are done, come back to Accra and let's start. So I finished my exams, came to Accra after high school. I
Mhm.
went to the niche and she was like, well, Ridwan, I like you, but unfortunately we had to start the show. And
Right.
so there's somebody that we are using at the moment. And for stability, and for the viewers'
We
sake,
have to
we don't
keep
want to
them.
be changing faces. So I want you to work in the newsroom as a reporter.
Mm.
So I was in the newsroom for like 3 days, and for some reasons,
How old were you at this time?
they needed a reporter to cover one of the senior reporters to cover an event.
Let me
And
ask, Ridwan, how old were you at this time? You had just come out of
I was
secondary
after
school,
high school. I was 19. I entered high school when I was 15, and I went through high school for 4 years.
so you
So when
came
I
out at
finished high
19
school, I was
and
19.
you went straight to
So
Accra.
yeah, I went straight to Accra. I was in the newsroom, and I
Were
think I
you
was
by
there.
yourself? I'm trying to get more meat because I'm so
It was
fascinated.
a day, it was a struggle. At some point I was shuffling between staying with people who were family members. Then I realized that the conditions were not really the best, so I had to look for a place. And so I managed to get a hostel, and it was a struggle. I entered the hostel without paying. I made a promise I was going to pay.
Mm,
So I entered the hostel without paying,
mm.
and that was where I stayed. And so
Wow.
let me just backtrack a bit. So 3 days at multimedia, then there was a senior reporter to go for an assignment. The person didn't turn up, so the assignment editor said, you know what, go and cover that assignment.
Mm,
I
mhm.
mean, go and get me some interviews. So I got there and I
Three
did.
days.
I think it was about Dr. Buzia. I think it was an anniversary, a centenary or something. So I got there and I met people, and I think when I came back and I brought the recording and she was listening, and she was listening to the question, you're like, Charlie, this guy. Then they took a decision to put me on assignment. So in a week
Wow.
at multimedia, I started going out. I was being assigned, I was going out, and I was there till that time. And I got admission to the University of Ghana, got admission to um, the Ghana Institute of Journalism. So I had to decide where I had to go. And so I went back home because I thought the teachers had done enough.
Mm,
It wasn't now time to go and be asking them to help again.
right.
And I thought my dad hadn't contributed that much, and
Mm.
so it was time to at least
Ask
let him know that I have tried. Like, I've gone through this, people have supported me, and now I'm going to the university, at least help
them.
support. So I went to this man with my admission letter, and he says that he has a friend in the military who can actually help me get into the military, but the university, he's not sure
Yeah.
he is in the position to help me go through that, which I didn't believe. And so, look at me, Zoe, somebody like me, a military officer.
I'm trying
How
to
is that
imagine how
possible?
you would have
You
survived
know,
as a
so
military
I
person
so so I got angry and left home, came to Accra, and that's how the hustle started.
by yourself.
And I want to use this platform. I've never mentioned it anywhere. I want to use this platform to thank Dr. Dennis Botti. He's been on most of the TV platforms.
Yes. God
He's one
bless you.
person that the first time I interviewed him, he thought I was a professional. Then, after some reason, after the interview, had a conversation, and he was surprised to know that I was from high school, took an interest in me, and he actually helped me together with Emma Morrison to make a down payment to secure my admission at GIJ.
Oh my
And I
God.
remember there
God
was a
bless
time
them.
he said that, you know what, I'm going to come to your company and let them know that the talent you have, they have to support you. So I remember he drove all the way from his office, came to motivate and said, "This guy, I see something in this guy, and I think you should give him all the support." So I secured my admission at GIG and I started. The
Can we take
challenges.
a moment and say thank you to these guys, to Madam Patience, to Mr.
Yes,
Samuel?
Madam Patience
Yes,
Abungo, Mr.
yes,
Samuel Abusi,
yes,
Mr. Odro Entry,
mm,
Esquire, who is now on retirement.
yes,
In fact, when I entered GIJ and the GIJ matriculation was on TV, and he said he was looking out for me and he didn't see me and he called. He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, sir, everybody, all my friends, all my roommates were like, I have my suit and I didn't have a suit." And so I couldn't go. And guess what? He invited me all the way to Kumasi because after high school, the school had an award for me. So I had to go to school and receive it. And when I got there, he had bought me a suit.
oh my
He's also
God.
somebody who had, played like a fatherly role in my life, or drew into Esquire. But at the time, the students used to call him Metatal,
Hmm.
because he was a strict disciplinarian. And I want to say thank you to him. And also my basic school teachers, my headmistress at the time, Mrs. Andrina Arthur. She's still a
Mm.
mother. I remember even when I entered GIG, at some point I was grappling with paying my bills. I'll call the husband and he will send some money. I am grateful to all of you. And I spent most of my time before I went to high school, and even in between high school, I would spend most of the time in her house,
Mm.
and a lot of the time she caught me off guard reading her newspapers on the table and acting like a news anchor. And I would turn and she's looking at me and her arms are folded and like, "Hey, this guy," and I mean, she gave me all the support. I remember when I come on vacation, she'll give me some provisions. And also to a very close friend of mine who I struggled through basic school with. He's called Solomon Gumpia. I remember
Mm.
those times every vacation I'll roam and gather provisions and go and keep it in his house, because when I take it home, it will be consumed.
God.
And sometimes I'm not able
Wow.
to gather enough. So Solomon, I remember, I mean, the family, could get enough for him. So he would get his provisions and actually divide them and
Mm-hmm.
give and add half to what
To you.
I had kept with him. And I remember and the thing about Winneba is that the Kumasi bus only goes once and he leaves at
I
3 a.m.
remember. Oh God.
3 a.m. So I have to leave. I have to wake up around midnight, get ready, and sometimes I'll go and knock at his door around 1 or 2 a.m. and
Mm.
pick my stuff. You help me to come to the streets and I'll go to,
Yes.
pick my things,
Wow.
go to school, get to Asafo Market and carry my provisions and my trunk and everything from Asafo Market all the way to KJTR. Take a trotro to go back to school. So I thank you so much,
All of you.
Solomon
Yes.
Gumpia. And there are so many people who have played in. And I keep telling friends, and sometimes they feel that I'm just being over the top. But I'm a public property because people who have no relations with me contributed immensely to my life. And I want to say I am so grateful to all of them.
Yeah.
And I want to also use this platform to say that if you're a young person and you're watching me, it doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter the condition at home. If you have a dream, keep it alive. You
Mm.
need to take your passion and your dream seriously. If you are serious, if you are diligent, if you take your studies seriously, God will send people down your way who will see you and say, "No, this guy has potential. This is a guy I can invest in." And they will
Mm.
contribute, you know, to your life and pay your fees like somebody supported me.
Yeah.
Somebody can support you to become the doctor or the person that you would want to be.
Mm.
And that's really what I want to say. And I remember when I got to Osei Tutu Senior High School, I became the president of the Writers and Debaters Club when I
Wow.
was like in year 2, and I held that position till I finished school. I
Finished.
also became a member of the editorial board. I remember I organized a televised talk show, and the school essentially gave me the platform to live that
Really?
journalism dream. I'll propose something and they'll run with it. And so in high school, everybody, like every single person in my year group, knew I would be a journalist because of how I carried myself. I'll write articles, I was emceeing school programs, and I could organize. I remember when I took over the debaters club, the teachers were not really interested. And
Mm.
so when the competitions come, I'll mobilize the members and actually research, put together the scripts, and prepare them for the debate. I did that for some time, and the teachers realized that the club was getting vibrant and they started showing interest,
Wow.
and I
Thank
feel
you.
that
Let's let me
I had that capacity because my teachers,
yeah.
helped me in
Let
building that
me
potential.
stop a little bit and say thank you first. And the audience is
Um,
going crazy right now because they're like, they're saying so many things. But one thing you just said, the power of dreaming, I wanted to sink into any young, actually all of us really. If you want something,
yeah,
dream it, act it out. This is how he's done it. And I'm 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 speechless. I
yeah.
really am. But let's fly over back to when you had just come out and now you
Zoe, can you give me like a minute? I have a little situation I need to fix. I'm so sorry.
I
Just
know
2 minutes. No, just a minute. Just a minute,
that's fine.
actually. I
It
need
was
to
give
fix
me
this like
time.
real quick.
Don't
Just
worry.
real quick.
Yes. Can you mute yourself, please, for me? Thank you. But guys, you guys are doing so well. I see you here with the comments. Once is because Ridwan is, he's producing a show at the moment, and that's why he had to, in the beginning of the show, he had told me he's producing a show and he has to grab some people, and this is what he's talking about. He's so invested in what he's doing that he's just juggling things. But let me read a few comments whilst Ridwan is off the Big Sis Elsie says, that's your book title right there. Public property, the product of the village. Hi, Shay. You already have editors, Ridwan. My goodness. Sedia Bever says, you are so right. God always sends help when you hold on to and work hard for your dreams. In fact, maybe I should also say it right here. I personally, I'm a I mean, I had my parents in my life, but traveling and coming here where I had no parents at all, and living by myself and all that. I've had a myriad of people just pouring into my life because much like Ridwan, I've just been like that, like talking all the time. I'm always saying how I love talking, and I'm talking all the time. So there's just that thing there. Pastor Teresa says, you were born for this. Yes, this is true. Sister Thandue in the UK says, we belong to each other as God's children. Blessed are they that realize this and play their part to help others. Thank God for these teachers. I cried tears of joy listening to you, brother. This is so true. Sister Hanati says, wow, amazing story of destiny and purpose. And of course, Sister Beverly, she goes in and she says, as in Habakkuk 2, verse 2, I believe that's the verse that says, write the vision and make it clear, right? It's
Yes,
it's
I'm back.
amazing. Yes.
Sorry,
Welcome.
I'm back. My battery was running low. I had to fix it. Yes, my
That's
battery was
okay. I
running
actually
low.
thought it was because you had to go
No,
and
no, no, no. My battery was running low. I
for
needed to fix it.
the show
And
you were
so,
producing.
yes,
Yes.
I was at multimedia for
Mhm.
some time, and I realized that I needed to move,
Yes.
and I left
Mhm.
and I joined the class media group in 2016. So I was multimedia from 2013 till 2015 ending.
Mm.
I learned so much. If you think I'm aggressive on the job, I learned that.
Mm.
I learned diligence at multimedia. I mean,
Wow.
there is no beat you put me on that I will not get a story. I will get it because I learned that from multimedia. I mean,
Mm.
you can't go out and feel comfortable to come back to the office and say I didn't get a story.
Wow.
So whatever it takes to get a story,
You
you
just
have to
did
do
it.
it. And I learned that from multimedia. I learned a lot, but
Wow.
I realized that at that particular point in time, I needed to make a move,
Hmm.
and so I joined the class media group. I was there for I joined in 2016. Then I had to leave in 20 the same
No,
year
Ridwan,
in.
real quick, before you
Mm,
jump in, I want to play this particular video just so
okay,
people know what you're talking
sure,
about.
sure,
Not
sure.
the first video I wanted to use for your introduction. This is another one that you did that really took me. I was just like, wow, is this a news
Okay.
item or is this a documentary? Guys, hang in there with me real quick and let's surprise Ridwan with this story from, I believe it's probably from 2016. Hold off, it's coming up now. Ah, there we go.
Over the years, Nima has been described as a densely
Oh.
with a poorly planned housing system.
Oh.
Although it could easily be described as perhaps one of the least sought after residential areas in the country.
Oh no.
It's not so far from the seat of government, the
Mm.
Flagstaff House here in Accra. The youth in this area are mostly seen as well unemployed, lack of
Oh.
opportunities and parental supervision, thereby perpetuating a vicious cycle of poverty. But guess what?
Oh,
This
Zoe.
trend appears to be changing, with the community gradually becoming a business hub. One problem never goes away: unemployment.
Now, if you pass anywhere, there's no job. If you the job crumble is there, the money.
People don't work. They are prone to so many situations. So when these political parties come with their mega monies to ask them to go and do things, it's easy for them to follow them. That is why you
Oh
can see
goodness.
engaging in some of these activities.
There are no official figures on the number of jobless Ghanaians. Experts say the situation is alarming. The hardest hit are the youth from the bulk of Ghana's 25 million people. And this is what is forcing many in turn to come to Nima and catch some relaxation moments. And just as you heard from the residents and the youth especially, they are vowing to walk the peace talk in this year's elections no matter what. Ridwan, Karim,
No.
GH1 News.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No.
I thought you would get a
You know,
kick
I
out
find it so difficult to watch myself. I find it so difficult, especially when it. I mean, I was 22 by then.
yeah,
In fact, this
wow.
was the first story I did when I joined GH1. I was
Mm,
22 when I joined GH1 in
wow.
2016. I
Wow.
was 22, and this was the very first story I did. I was asked to pitch a story, and I was like, you know what? A lot has been said about Nima
Mm,
being a flashpoint, and I mean, violence will happen in the election, but the
mhm.
people want to change that narrative. So let's tell that story, And I did that story. And I remember Nanaba had, I mean, had finished reading the news and she came back. She didn't know me at the time. She came out from the studio, was like, where is that Karim guy? Everybody is talking about that story on Twitter. It looks old now, but that
Yes.
story, made a lot of good impressions, on the minds of people. Yes, so I joined GH1 when I was 22 in 2016 October.
Mm,
I left Class FM. At Class FM, I reported extensively. I was I started anchoring, the news on radio at
wow.
Class FM. So I joined GH1. So I was there. I covered the election, and I think it was the election coverage that gave me a lot of attention because I
Mm,
was stationed at the north,
mm,
and so I was doing the live coverage. And I think around that time, it wasn't really the thing to see a lot of live coverage on TV, like
mm,
somebody on location doing a live report. And I
mm.
was very young, and the way I was doing it, I think people fell in love with
With
it. And
us,
so,
yes.
like a lot of people were talking about me, and the feedback was great. I remember when I returned, my CEO called me into his office and was like, "You did a wonderful job," and that commendation meant a lot to me. And
Mm,
I will go to parliament and people were like, you did so well, and the commendations were great.
mm.
So fast forward 2017, I continued with my reporting and people love my reporting. Well,
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that there's something unique about the way I tell stories. And so
Yes.
people were just in love with it. And I continued doing my stories, and I think in in September, I traveled to the north because I wanted to highlight access to water because
That's the
I traveled.
story I was going to play.
Yeah, I traveled
I'll
previously and
play.
I realized that this is where I come from.
Mhm.
My people are Ghanaians.
Mm.
They deserve better.
Yes.
And we won't and recently I attended a program and I was telling my senior Abdul Hayy Mumin that we
Mm.
can't allow people to continue to come from the south and tell our stories. There are so many people in the north who
Mm.
see me and they're like, I want to be like you. So we
Mm.
need to have a way to train the budding journalists in the north so that they can own the narrative. We are telling our own stories,
Just
but
like
I'm sure
we
that's a
do
conversation
here
for another
another
time. Yeah.
time. Yes.
Yeah, so I traveled and I started what we call the portraits of the countryside.
Mm.
We started the hashtag Northern Lives Matter. So I
Mm.
started doing the stories, but before then, I had traveled to Bimbela
Mm.
to cover the chieftaincy dispute. It was raging at the time.
I
And that
remember.
story was also another great story that got me a lot of feedback. So I went to the north, we did the story, the documentaries were running.
Mm.
Then I got a mail from the African Media Initiative and the African Union
Mm.
that I had been nominated for an award in Ethiopia.
Oh my
I
God. I
didn't
love
know. I didn't know.
goosebumps.
I didn't know the category at the time because I had put in so many entries for different categories. So we
Wow.
got to Addis Ababa in the hotel. There were some trainings and conferences and all of that. Then on the um, night of the award, they mentioned a category, peace and security reporting, and they mentioned my name. And there were some top-notch investigative journalists that I had heard about in Ivory Coast, in Cameroon. They had worked on massive projects, and I was in the same category with those people.
Oh my God.
And when they were calling out the winner, they
Oh
mentioned
my
my
God.
name. Zoe, I was waiting to be pinched. I couldn't even feel my skin. It was exciting. And I forgot to say my mother had died, you know,
Mm.
um, earlier that year in April. My mother went through a lot. My mother went through a lot. She suffered with us. My
Mm.
mother didn't keep any treasure. She didn't keep any valuables because
She sold
she
everything.
felt that if her children needed to eat, if her children needed to go to school,
Mm.
then what was the point in keeping those things?
Yeah.
So I remember my mother would pick her wax prints. She would get expensive lace from relatives and all of that. As far back as when we were in Cape Coast, and I was like the closest to
Mm.
my mother among all the siblings. We'll go to the Elmina, um, what do you call it? The Elmina Beach, where
Mm.
the fishmongers are. And that's where my mother used to sell her wax
Valuable.
prints and her
Wow.
valuables. And so whenever I go to Elmina, there are so many memories. So my mother did that for the longest time. And I thought this was a time that she could also bask in that glory,
Yes.
that the doubting Thomases, those who castigated her, those who embarrassed her and thought that her children, nothing could come out of her children. Somebody was also coming up, to wipe away her tears. And my mother, she just died. It was a heartbreaking moment for me, and it still is,
Mhm.
because there are times that I remember, some memories are triggered, and Charlie, it's just I become inconsolable.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm just watching TV and people talk about their mother and it brings me to tears. Somebody will say that, oh mommy, thank you so much for all that. Then
You were
it will
just,
trigger a tear.
I
And
share that
so
with you.
if there is anything that if there is anything that I will tell my younger self, would be that I should have spent a lot of my time praying to God
Yes.
to at least to have allowed my mother to live longer, because she suffered, she went through a lot. I mean,
Wow.
there are so many things my mother had to endure that I cannot
Even
say right now, but
you're
she
gonna
did.
put it in the book. Someone gave
Yes.
you a title, by the way, in
Mm,
the
yeah.
comments.
Oh,
They're saying that your title should be, and I second it, public property, the product of the village.
yes.
That I
Public
think we're
property
gonna run
indeed.
with that. We're gonna run with that, and you're gonna
Yeah,
write that
we'll
story.
try and work around it,
Yes.
And so I lost my mother. Then I was in Ethiopia. I received this award, and I was 23.
Oh my.
you know, and best African journalist, you know, in peace and security. It was such a big deal. Then the story that I had done, the portrait of the countryside, in 2018, got nominated by the International Center for Journalists. There is an award called the Michael Elliott Award for
Yeah.
Excellence in African Storytelling.
Yes. Yes.
I became a first runner-up. I couldn't win.
Oh, it's
Not
okay.
knowing God had a bigger
Yeah.
plan for me. Not knowing God had a bigger plan for me. In 2018, June, I was
Mm,
24. I received a mail from the European Commission in Brussels, Belgium,
mm.
that I have been selected to receive the Lorenzo Natali Media Prize. And
Wow.
I look back in Ghana and I can only remember one Raymond, I've forgotten the surname, and
Mhm.
Anas Aremio announced. Only the two Ghanaians
Only
who
the
have received
two.
those awards. And
Wow.
I received a mail from the European Commission indicating that I had won that. I think I that was completely life-changing for me. I had to travel to Brussels to receive the award, and it was completely, you know, heartwarming. And
Wow.
from that year, it's been award. I have so, in fact, most of the awards that I have in my cabinet are not awards that I receive in Ghana. I
God,
receive most of my awards outside, you
outside.
know. And I have also received a few national awards. I have received
Mhm.
about three from the Ghana Journalist Association. I
Mm,
have received one from the National Communications Award for Best News Anchor, you
mm.
know. And for me, it's not just about the award, but I want to look back at my journey, where I
Yes.
started from, you know. I'm now working with people who attended all the best schools, all the international schools. Meanwhile, from start to finish, I have always attended Saito or public schools,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
wow.
And for me, the crux of the story is that it doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, when God wants to bless you, he doesn't look at your background. He doesn't look at whether somebody agrees or not. He doesn't care. I mean, when it is your time, it is your
Your
time.
time.
And I also want to say that it takes a split second, a microsecond, for God to turn things around. So never think that your situation is hopeless. If you
Mm,
had met me, if you had seen me about 5 or 10 years ago, you would have you would have doubted me. You would have written me off. But look
mm.
at me today. You know, I'm getting to places that I never dreamt of, not even in my wildest dreams that I will get to. You know, I'm getting to work on projects sponsored by the Pulitzer Center in the US.
Mm.
I'm getting to report for the Public Radio International in the US. And so far, I'm getting feedback. Recently, I did a story about secondhand clothing, and somebody
Yes.
had to look for me on LinkedIn because the person heard my voice on in the US, and decided to look for me and to say thumbs up for a good job done. You know, I might not be as rich as I would want to. I might not have all the things that I would want to have, but I feel that God has done more than enough. And the best I can do is to be grateful, you know. And so if you're a young person, I'm just 27, and look at all the things that, you know, God has done to my life. I would want to say that, you know what, it doesn't matter the situation you find yourself in, God can always turn things around.
Yes.
And let me also be real, it's not just about the God factor. You
Mm,
also have to take your life seriously. You need
mm.
to take your studies seriously. If it is journalism that you have to do, you need to read, communicate, build that self-confidence yourself. You don't read and you learn new words and you're only waiting to write it in an essay. Communicate it. I remember when I was in high school and I used to speak and use certain words, my mates were like, "Oh, the upper brofo crowd, you like speaking too much English." But they didn't know that with the kind of job that I wanted to do, I needed that
Get
as
that.
one of the tools to be able to
Mm.
communicate effectively. And look at me, you know. And so I feel that you need to work on yourself. Too much friendship will not take you anywhere. It
Wow.
doesn't take too much. People say, oh, connection. I agree to some extent. You need connection. You need some crop of friends to sometimes realize certain things. but it's not always the case.
Mm.
When you look at me, I'm a very private person. I have just a few friends. I have friends, my closest friends are not even up to six,
Mm.
and it's not about their status. Sometimes I just look at people with ambition. And so I can meet somebody on the streets and I am carried away or excited by the ambition because maybe there is some relatability, and they become my friend because I feel there is a lot we can share, to
Yes.
be able to work on each other. And for me, it's exciting to see that you are also making an impact on somebody's life. And
Mm.
so that is all that I would say. Whatever you want to do, you need to take seriously. And I have a challenge when people talk about humility, but what I would preach,
Mm.
because I think our understanding of humility in this part is a bit
Little different. Yes.
some way. So what I would say is that you need to have respect for human beings.
Period.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I mean, you don't need to know what somebody uh, does for a
Mm.
living before you decide which amount of respect you want to accord the person.
Mm.
Every human being, whether they are beggars, whether they are on the wheelchair, whether they sell, even the hawkers,
Mm.
those you buy the pure water and the
Yes.
gum from,
From
they
on the
deserve
street. Yes.
respect. And for me, when you have that mindset, you would go far. I am fortunate that when I joined multimedia, WhatsApp was there, Facebook was there, but the obsession wasn't as serious as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in the newsroom and I realized that people come, there are so many young people like me who want to do journalism and they come and they don't pay attention. They are in the office and constantly they are on their WhatsApp. And I'm
Mm.
not saying this to blow my own trumpet. Anybody who works with me will tell you that I have a different energy when it comes to work. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't know me and you come to the office, you might not have something good to say about me because I feel that when we are working, it's a different thing altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Outside work, we can be playful, but the work must be approached with a certain sense of urgency. And that
Mm.
is what I feel a lot of young people like me, or some of them, are missing. They come to the newsroom, they are constantly on their WhatsApp. They are giving feedback
Facebook.
by editors that you wrote this well and it wasn't, you wrote this a certain way and it wasn't well written. So work on this, work on that. Sometimes they take offense and they feel that the editors are asking for too much. Believe you me, there are so many things that we had to endure. Some of them I would not encourage, but we had to endure. I mean, for instance, people talk about being sent around in the newsroom to, like running errands and all of that.
Yes.
I did those. I had to go and queue, buy Indomie. You buy the Indomie, you come and this person will say, but when you were going, you didn't tell me. Me too, I want some, go and buy. It is
Wow.
all part of the train. At
A
some
training.
point, you have to, you don't have to do it and say that, oh, I'm here to learn. And so I will not do, you do it because it shows that, okay, you come from a home where you
You
some
are
level of respect, but also don't be carried away and turn yourself into an Indomie boy and all you do in the office.
Yes.
Sorry, all I mean, he does in the office is to buy Indomie. Then that would
Yes.
be the name. No, I don't think that should happen. And so that is I mean, positive positive attitude towards work is something that you need to build. When you have that, you would go far. And so I think I have said all of the things that I want to say, but I want to say thank you to all the people who have been part of my journey. I don't
Yes.
know where I would have been without them.
Without
They made it possible and they continue to make it possible. Sometimes I get so carried away by the work, and so I don't even check up.
Mm.
I go back to them on bended knees and they still, or on bent knees, and they still, find a way to forgive me. I want to say I appreciate them and I want to thank them for holding me down. And also to my siblings. I left home when I was 19.
Mhm.
I don't remember the last time
You
I mean,
went
since
back.
then, I spent quality time with my siblings. But I mean, they call me all the time. We spend a lot of time on phone. We talk, and the love is there. The togetherness is there. I want to say I appreciate them. I love them. And they should understand I'm a young man. I'm trying to build a certain foundation. When the foundation is solid, I'm sure we'll have more time, to get around and have all those, quality time. But
Wow.
I'm grateful and thank you to everybody. I haven't really had. This is the first time I'm talking about myself in such,
Wow.
in
Detail.
such fashion, and so I can't
Mhm.
even. My words are failing me, and so that explains all the slips here and there. But
Yes.
Zoe, I'm grateful for the platform, and sharing my story is not to evoke pity. Like at this particular point in my life, I don't want anybody to pity me. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you so that you will be inspired. So that
Amen.
regardless of what your situation is, you know that it is possible for God
Possible.
to turn things
Yes.
around. Yeah. So that's
Yes.
basically it. Yeah.
Wow. You know, um, normally I would, chime in and have something to say when, we're doing stories like this. This is Africans telling stories. And this is one of the very few times when I have just basically been more silent than ever, so that, the story can flow. Reason being that because of Ridwan's age, I realized that he has an audience that is more prone to listen to him, and we wanted to afford him that platform to really speak. And oh my God, he came
And
and
and can I think I have I need to do this.
yes,
I would also want to say thank you to with all my eloquence and all my confidence from high
mm,
school. My knowledge about what do you call it, the word Microsoft and computer
word,
and all of that
yes,
was so bad. And so guess what I was doing
mm,
um when I joined multimedia. I'll go out and I'll write my story with pen on a sheet. And I remember there was a gentleman from Legon who had come to do his internship.
mm,
Then I'll actually beg him to type for me. So
wow,
he would type. He did that for some time. So whilst he was struggling to write his script, I had written mine and I
and
was begging him to put it on the computer for me, like type it out for me. And there's one lady that I I want to say big thank you to. She's called Abla,
mm-hmm,
Francisca Abla de Souza. She's an editor in the Joy Newsroom. I think she's one of the toughest people I've ever encountered. Like she will make you angry, but I think later you realize that she actually wants the best for you.
you,
I think so. She found out, and she one day she insisted that what, you will type.
mm-hmm,
And so I remember I was doing where is E, where is L, and eventually that's how
you
I
got it,
got around typing. It didn't end there. I remember those times she would be working on her documentaries and she would take me along and you
mm,
would say that you see this, I want you to write this story. And I
mm,
think that exposure really helped me. And I think at the beginning too, I'll go out and I will struggle to get some sources are not cooperative.
mm-hmm,
And so you go there and they are trying to dodge you and they don't want to grant you your interview and all of that. But how to maneuver that, I learned it from that lady as well. And
wow,
so Abla, that's how we call her. If you're watching or wherever you are, I want to say I'm grateful. And to all the people in the Joy Newsroom at the time, Stephen N.T., Brighton Anamfu, Emma Morrison. Emma
yes, I
Morrison
was
brought
about to
me to
say,
the Joy Newsroom, and so I'm grateful. And Mr. Mbia, who actually introduced me to Emma Morrison
mm,
during the whole scholarship thing. I'm grateful to
wow,
everybody who has been part of my life, anybody that I have worked with before who has impacted me in one way or the other. I'm grateful. Yeah, I had
wow.
to do that.
Yes, no, thank you for doing that because one of the premises of this show is that we have to go back in order to move forward. Going back to move forward, you have to go back, recount where you've been, and not stay there. And most importantly, be grateful for your journey that's going to propel you forward. So we're very grateful that you came and you've done this with us. Thank you so much, Ridwan. Like I said, I think we did a dry run yesterday, and I just write from jump, I said, I think I have adopted you. You're probably exactly my younger brother's age. And so he's being adopted and then grafted into
You have
me.
to adopt all my siblings, so we are 10 in number.
No,
I'm only number 7.
good God.
I'm only number 7. So 8 boys, 2 girls. We are
That's
we are
amazing.
joining you.
Oh, wow. And to
Yeah.
all of our audience,
So
guys,
you have a football team behind
that would
you.
be good, yes. Pastor Teresa Hanatu, Sister Joatego, Jane, Hong Quagrin, I see you. Oh my God, Ryle Adem. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking and I'm trying to figure out who I've missed. It's just too many people for me to, Kala, I see you. Oh my God, Shadrach, Ruth. There's so many of you. We are so thankful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on to My Younger Self and sharing a bit of yourself. We look forward to the book. I cannot wait to, read it and possibly introduce you for the book launch,
And thank you to your sister,
yes,
whom I'm
Radia,
yet to meet.
who actually
Thank-
proceeded to teach me how to say your name and tell me all these things about you and the dimple and oh my goodness,
Oh
so
my
many
goodness.
stories to tell there. She's going to watch it later, she says, because she had to not be here unfortunately.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ridwan. God bless you. We were joking.
Bless you
thought
too.
you couldn't do 35 minutes. It's an hour and 11 minutes in. So God has been good. One of the things I'd like to leave you with is something Pastor Teresa said here, and I think you should really take it at heart. She said, the skies can't contain you.
Praise God. God bless you so much. Thank
Actually,
you,
a
all of you,
pastor.
for your kind words.
So I believe she's
I'm
prophesying
grateful.
and she's saying, see you at BBC. We
Amen.
cannot wait
Amen.
to see you
Amen.
doing
Thank you.
good things. Ridwan, God bless you. Listen, guys, next week is our last show of the year. Okay. And we're going to close out with a bang. Please, please, please join us next week. We're going to be having Joshua Mogri here. He's not only my cousin, he's also a pastor. He has some interesting stories to share, Christmas stories and all the things we, children do during Christmas and all that, just amazing stories. Join us for the closeout of To My Younger Self. Next year, we're going to start off on the 4th of January with a powerful storyteller from Canada. You do not want to miss Dr. Ajua, I promise you. So please, please, please take a, chill out for a bit, but always have us at the back of your mind. To my younger self, telling stories all across the African continent. Okay, my name is Zoe Baraka. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging with you this Tuesday morning together with Ridwan. I wanted to give him the last say, but I do believe he said everything he needs to say.
Yes, I've said everything, and I also mentioned friendship, but I think the few friends that I have, I'm human. I have my flaws.
Yes.
They love me nonetheless. And I want to say I'm grateful to all of you. I don't want to mention names, but I love all of you. Yes. And I'm grateful. Let's continue to work on ourselves and grow together.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
and find Ridwan's page on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's his full name on there, Ridwan Karim Dini-Osman. So you can, follow up on the stories he's doing and,
I'm on Twitter, I'm on IG, Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yes. So you can get in touch with me.
Okay. God bless you guys. We love you. So from the studios over here and also from the studios in Accra, Ghana, we're saying goodbye. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful Tuesday. We will see you next week.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.